Okay, we are now diving into the world of copyrights, right? Copyright to a point. I'm not going to be super legal here, but I'm at least going to give you like a beginner's kind of introduction into copyright and fair use, how it works with online images, right? Because sometimes in a study context, when we're generating work for projects, you're going to need to get a picture from somewhere. All right. Also, if you're promoting an event, what do we do a lot? A lot of events, they go online, they pull a photo, and now that photo is the centerpiece of this event, which persons want to make money from. You're using someone's likeness to make money. At least that's what it used to be. Now that we're in an AI space, people are probably not looking for pictures the same way. They're probably just going to generate it with AI and keep it pushing. All right, so copyright, fair use, how it works with online images. So you would have heard this saying a bazillion times that a picture is worth 1,000 words. But when that picture is protected by image copyright, that picture is only worth 3 words. Cease and desist. Right? Okay, that was a law joke, but it illustrates how protective people are about finding their copyrighted images used online without permission. So that's a little bit of what we were talking about before. So you have photographers that may take pictures at events, and or they might have taken a photo at a portrait session, they posted it to their page. The image itself is very striking, very dramatic. It feels like this could stand out, right? So a graphic designer like myself might go see that image and be like, you know what, this will look so cool. Change the colors a little bit, add some text here, some stuff here. Boom, instant flare. I never contacted the photographer. I just took it and ran with it. That's a problem. So copyright laws were established not to give the author the right to deny their work to other people, but instead to encourage its creation. Right? So that might get a little weird, but I'll just say that again. And I think we'll make this make sense as we move along. Copyright laws were established not to give the author the right to deny their work to other people, but instead to encourage its creation. So there's a clause in the US Constitution. I got to put this in because it's part of the research that the purpose of copyright laws is to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. Basically, is this: if you were the first person to make a peanut butter sandwich, and I loved your peanut butter sandwich, I can, for a limited time, use your recipe for this peanut butter sandwich and mess around with it until I figured out that peanut butter goes great with jelly. And now I have created a peanut butter jelly sandwich, which is not a completely new idea, but it's now a, what do you call that? A variation on the original, right? Peanut butter existed, and now it's peanut butter and jelly. If you are Elvis, you would put a banana in there, right? I'm telling you to go do that, but that man loves peanut butter and bananas, so I've heard. And that goes across the board, right? You can see how that can expand out into technology, right? You have a technology that allows you to have a program as a personal assistant. You see how that has evolved over the last few years. Siri, when she came out, super revolutionary. Since Siri, we've had so many um, digital personal assistants come and go, right? The voice has been getting significantly better. Now we have AI that talks to us like whoever, we can clone voices, all of that fun stuff. But copyright allows that we can take something that was original and then allow us to tweak it so it becomes something else. All right. But we're going to get into that. So there's a delicate balance between the rights of a creator and the public's interests. When in conflict, the balance tips more heavily towards the public's interests, which is often contrary to what a creator will believe to be fair and just. Right? Like that just sounds weird. So I have copyright on something, but you telling me it could come a point where the public interest would be weighed more than my creation, right? More than the fact that I, Kurt Seal, made this. Yeah, it's pretty darn weird. So we'll look at the concept of fair use as it pertains to using images online. The goal here is to better understand how to use images others create in a way that's both respectful of the author's ownership rights and allow others to use it. So in this space where we are going to be managing an artist or managing an event, I think this is going to be critical, right? If your client is creating works of art, which could be music, which can be photos, events, experiences, there's going to come a point where something similar can pop up. And you got to know where you stand as far as copyright goes. So, what's copyright? Copyright is a legal means of protecting an author's work. It's a type of intellectual property that provides exclusive publication distribution. All right, I can try to put these in smaller words. It's a type of intellectual property that allows for pretty much you can make something and you can put it out. And you, the author, have all rights to that, right? It just says that you sign your name on it. It's like, this was me. No one else did it, and it was me. So many different types of content can be protected by copyright. So, example, books, poems, plays, songs, films, artwork, all of this can be protected by copyright laws. And this applies both to the published and unpublished works. So as soon as you type words, click the shutter on your camera, hit the home button on your iPhone, apply paint to canvas or paper, or lay tracks down for that next hit, that you've got copyright, with some exceptions. So copyright attaches as soon as the original work is created, whether this is in the public or whether this is on your phone. Copyright exists. All right. So you had an idea for an event, you wrote that down in your notes app. As soon as you wrote that, boom, copyright. That is copywritten. All right. The difference is, when we get into that, is being able to protect your work. Right. So having copyright and being able to protect it, two different things. All right. So copyright is an automatic right and does not require the author to file special paperwork. But you have to file special paperwork in the case of a trademark, in the case of a patent. All right. So if you, I don't know if you guys watched that McDonald's movie, but when the brothers created this system for fast food, that system was able to be patented because that system never existed before. When you have a patent, you can then take that and you can use that to empower other businesses if you want. You can issue licenses to persons to use the system that you have created for a limited amount of time, and that's fine. So you can have multiple businesses that have different brand names using the same system of operation that was created by someone else. And that is not a breach of copyright. So registration is required to enforce the rights. So registration is required to enforce the rights for like trademarks and patents. But as a matter of right, an author is not required to register anything to get the right to use the circle C, right? The icon in the background here. You can put copyright on anything. You could put that symbol on anything, but you don't need to register anything in order for that to be applied. All right, 10 more minutes before we take that break. The copyright owner, we're going to talk about the areas that they have the rights, that you have rights in. The copyright owner has the right to reproduce the copyrighted work. All right, so if you are a musician, you create a song, then you can reproduce that song over and over and over and over. You can print that song on your album this year, your 10-year anniversary album, your 20-year anniversary album. Like, just think Mariah Carey's Christmas song. Like, right? She can run that whenever she feels like. Why? She owns the copyright, hopefully. Right? Well, I mean, maybe the masters and copyright aren't the same thing, but there you go. Next thing copyright owners have the right to display the copyrighted work publicly. If you made it, you can show it off. It is yours. All right, so you can reproduce it. You can show it off in public. You can prepare derivative works based on the copyrighted work. All right, so let's get a little interaction, get that blood flowing a little bit. When I say derivative, what are you guys thinking? Do you guys understand what I mean by derivative?
Derivative
No,
meaning
sir.
derivative mean
No,
it
sir,
came
I
from
don't
somewhere
understand.
else. It can is a in other words, an alteration or descentive or it came down from something original. It's not the original.
Okay, Carrie, what were you saying?
Alteration.
I need you to go back over that again for me.
Oh, the same sentence on the screen?
Yes,
Right.
sir.
All right, cool. So the copyright owner has the right to prepare derivative works based on the copyrighted work. So just like Jamal was saying, a derivative is like the example that I gave of peanut butter. If peanut butter and on bread never existed before, and I'm the first to do it, anything that has peanut butter and bread is a derivative of that. So peanut butter and jelly, derivative. Peanut butter and banana, derivative. To make it make more sense, if I create the story of Spider-Man, in the story of Spider-Man, he fights Venom, Electro, and Hobgoblin. If he fights these three people, I can then decide, you know what? I really like Hobgoblin. So I think we should have a limited series focused on just Hobgoblin. And in that story, Hobgoblin meets somebody else. And I said, you know what? Now that we're here, I love this other person that Hobgoblin is now meeting. So let's spend some time digging into that story. So you can create a film or a TV show. And because it was accepted so well, people love the characters so much, you can start giving the individual characters their own breakout shows. Those breakout shows are derivatives. If you are a musician, you create a song that's a hit. The song is in the genre of R&B. A DJ hears the song, chops it up, all of a sudden it's Afro beat. That is a derivative of your R&B song. It's completely different. It feels completely different, but it's a derivative. If your song never existed, this Afrobeat would never exist. All right. So you, as the owner of the copyright, you, the person that created the song, you have all rights to explore every single musical avenue that you want. You could do R&B, hip hop, K-pop, opera, if you feel so led, all on the same lyrics, just that the presentation is now different. Are we clear?
Understood, sir.
All right, perfecto. So the owner also has the right to distribute copies of the copyrighted work to the public by sale, rental, or lending and or to display the image. So if you own the copyright, you can make as many copies as you want. If Leonardo da Vinci was alive today and he had his paintings, he can say, you know what, this 4-foot by 4-foot painting is the original. However, I know that it's going to be difficult to get that to other people. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a print of this, which is this big, like a postcard. I'm going to print that on some canvas paper, but it's not a painting. This is a print of the painting. And I will sell those to people. So rather than you paying $20 million or whatever his things is valued right now, you can get this copy for $200. All right. That is all possible. If this same Leonardo da Vinci was alive today and he had an Airbnb, he can say, you know what? Actually, he said, you know, I don't even want an Airbnb. What I want to do is I want to place my artwork in other people's Airbnbs just to raise the value of the Airbnb itself by having the art inside there. So I will rent you my painting for 3 months at a time. Leonardo does not own an Airbnb, but he's making money on the system by renting his artwork so that the value of the property is now raised. Because if you have a villa that is what, $300 a night, and you put a couple $20 million paintings in there, I feel like you could up the price. Just saying. All right. So he has the right to do that. Or if he wants to make it more affordable, he could like do the same low budget print out of the original work. All
So,
right.
sir,
Yes, please.
so say I take your photo
Yeah.
and I put my watermark or my trademark on it. I say it's mine. I could just sue you after, if you understand.
So you took my photo
Yeah.
and you're doing what with the photo?
I like putting my trademark, my watermark. I said I is the original. I just made it. So I could just turn around and sue you and I said I is the original creator.
Well, you wouldn't have to sue me. You took the photo.
Right,
And that's
but
what.
they wouldn't know if you understand. I saying I just made it. Are you using it? You know?
Well, that would
I
be
will
a.
get rid
I mean, it would be a question of paper trail. Like if I
Mm,
hired you to take a picture, you took the picture of me, right?
mm.
At that point, I hired you. You're doing a job. That photo is mine. You took it, but that's my photo. If you, as a photographer, said, Kurt, I'm trying to build out my portfolio. Can you come do a shoot with me? That photo is yours. If you get what I'm saying. I didn't want the picture.
Even so,
Mhm.
too, right, sir? I figure we're on this conversation. Even so, you still have to be careful of something called inherent rights,
Right?
right? Because let me say if a Kimani know who was initially saying that if he took the image of you, not necessarily for you, but of you, and you're using it, that he could just sue you. It don't always operate so because like any day, if sir in that picture know he has something called inherent rights. So unless you made him sign a waiver or sign some sort of contractual agreement stating that he doesn't want any rights to this, right? You can't sue him because when you get in court, you can realize that hey, there's something called inherent rights, and any lawyer worth his salt will be able to beat that case.
Yeah. Right. And then there's also like you're a photographer at an event. You took pictures. The pictures get posted on a public domain. I took my photo off of you Facebook and I have it up as my profile picture. Right? Cool. Now, with the photo being there, is this causing any harm to the original shooter? Right? The photographer. Does my having a picture that he took, is that damaging his brand? It's 100% isn't. By any chance, somebody would be like, wait, who took that picture for you? Da, 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 da. And I'd be like, Anna, I get off of Lost in Paradise page, you gotta check them to see who their photographer was. Right? So it's like saying to some advertising. Now, let's say I took my picture off of Instagram or Facebook for Lost in Paradise. I loved it so much that I'm also a musician, and I thought this photo really captures the mood of the single that I'm putting out. That is different. It's different if I am looking to sell the single. If I am just putting it out and the single is for promotion, then there's no problem. But we're going to get into that part. All right. When it's not for promotion, then I'm not doing anything to you. Yes, people are going to see it, but I'm not making any money off of it. All right. But you, as the owner of the photo, have all right when you see this pop up on YouTube, be like, wait, not my picture. You can message me. Right. First step would definitely be to reach out, say, Kurt, I see that you're using this photo from Lost in Paradise. Just let you know that's my photo. Question: you looking to sell this single, or this is just you just putting out music so people can hear it? If I say, man, I'm trying to get as much money I can get from this song, they was like, okay, so I'm gonna have to charge you for using this photo without permission.
All right, you can go ahead with a cease and desist or operate under a split sheet. So you can work out something.
Yeah, you work out something, right? You gotta do something. Now we're gonna get into how you can actually use a photo and by law get away with it, even though you just take it up and you want to use it for profit. Right. And this is where that little messed up sentence that I read earlier about sometimes copyright, depending on it, leans towards the public interest as opposed to the copyright owner, because copyright exists for the creation of things. We want people to borrow it and then make something awesome. Anywho, 6:03. We'll take that 10-minute break at this point. I'll see you guys back here at 6:13.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we just spoke about a bunch of the things that copyright owner has the rights to. And we're going to summarize those into these four, right? They have the right to reproduce the copyrighted work, display the copyrighted work publicly, prepare derivative works. These are going to be, let's call them follow-ons, like variations of their original idea. All of those are things that they are able to do. Then lastly, they can distribute copies of that copyrighted work to the public by sale, rental, or lending, and or display the image. All right. So those are a couple things that as the owner of the copyright, you're able to do. Now, that thing that I mentioned, fair use, this is where the public interest comes into play. All right. This is where if you come after someone and they have, let's say, a legal team that can argue this was actually under fair use, you're not going to be able to win that case, right? It's going to lean into the public's favor. So fair use is not the same as free use. Fair use, free use, not the same thing. Fair use is a legal exemption to the exclusive rights of an owner that an owner has for his or her copyrighted work. It has little to do with what we may think is fair and everything to do with keeping the balance tipped in the favor of the public interest. It's a delicate balance, but it's one that often leaves the copywriter, the copyright owner wanting to scream. So if you want to review a book, a new piece of technology, a food product, or whatever widget, you likely want to include a photo, right? You likely want to include a photo. And that picture is of something that you did not create. However, you're taking the picture so that you can talk about the thing that was created. Without taking the picture, there's no context for the wider public to understand what you're talking about. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, essentially, this piece of content that you're using, before the use of it, your content doesn't have any substance or any base.
Right.
Essentially, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm lost.
Okay. Have you ever seen a YouTuber review like restaurants?
Yes,
They say, oh
sir.
my gosh, this is my favorite restaurant. It's good for blah, blah, blah. I love the food, the decor, and all that fun stuff. Now, this influencer did not cook anything. They did not build a restaurant. All they did was show up like any other customer. But they can create a brand centered around them going to different places and eating the food like a consumer. People will watch this person talk about these places, and they could potentially make a decision whether they want to go based on what this person says. They can take pictures of the food. They can take apart the food in weird ways. Like I think it has some parsley. Let's see if we can find the parsley. You're watching this person digging in this food, right? Not really showing the work in a great way, but they're trying to give you all the information that they can. Okay. They are able to monetize that situation and they can get paid for doing this stuff. Now, the legal exemption here is this is fair use. They are giving the public information that the restaurant owner is not giving them. Restaurants don't go into detail in what their menu has. You will very seldom see a restaurant and have a chef where the chef is on social saying like, yeah, we have, this is the menu. This is what I was thinking behind the menu. I would love to see it, but I just don't. All right. So this person gets to come and talk about it. What's on the screen is a movie. In order to talk about the movie, you got to go watch the movie. When you are filming your review or your breakdown, you're going to have to use clips so that the person watching can get the context of what you're saying. Okay? Do you have permission to download the people's movie and cut it up into clips? No. You don't have permission, but you don't need permission because you're doing a review. Right? But we're going to get into that. So if you are reviewing something, you have to, you got to grab the artwork from the website. You need the artwork. You might put that on the thumbnail for your YouTube page. All of that. You don't own the photo. You don't own the rights. You don't have permission to do any of this stuff, but you're still able to do it. Maybe you can go even further and print it out so it's behind you. Like I'm reviewing this movie, right? And you got a big printout behind you. All of that stuff that you can do. So regardless of the process, you still had to right click that image, save it, and then upload it to your site. The photo itself will not substitute for the actual film. So the owner's rights should be very minimally affected. Therefore, your right to use the copyrighted image would likely be permitted under fair use. Okay. So you taking clips to talk about it, that doesn't, it's not going to substitute to the for the actual film. People still will go watch the movie. You just were paying so much attention that you realize, you know what, this person behind here, they were actually in this other film that is related to this film. Like if you guys have seen the Easter eggs between are these all Disney shows like Frozen, Moana, and other shows? Have you seen those? And Tangled, like the lead from Tangled was actually in Frozen for like 2 seconds, and then the boat that the parents of the girls in Frozen were in actually crashed somewhere near the location for Moana. Who sits down and watch these things to connect these dots? I don't know, but people do. So you being able to talk about it, it's not going to replace the movie that exists, right? But like I said earlier, you pulling the information is just so you can talk about it. Otherwise, this person would just be talking to you like with no imagery at all, and it's just their face, and you got to imagine everything. It's not the most effective use. So that's why it ends up being under fair use. So fair use is in a place for the greater good to allow copyrighted works to be used without permission for the benefit of the public, right? Imagine not being able to use the images of a dead dictator to tell the story of how he died, or not being able to talk about fashion without showing the outfit you're referring to, right? It's a disconnect. So all is fair. Jeez. All is fair in the pursuit of a creative outlet, kind of. Right. So we spoke about our little circle C. Right. It's a quick guide to copyright. As we take a look at infringements a little bit from the creator perspective. All right. So what does copyright protect? This is from the creator perspective. Having copyright protects original, literary, dramatic, musical, artistic works that include poetry, novels, movies, songs, computer software, architecture, graphic design, and so much more. So if you're paying attention, you might be thinking, so what do I mean by most graphic designs? Right? Whether or not copyright applies to logo designs is a gray area, judged by a case-by-case basis. But for a work to have copyright protection, it must reach a certain level of creativity and originality. Copyright doesn't expand to things like names, colors, typefaces, geometric designs, or familiar symbols. What that means, you can't own a color. By means of copyright, you can't own a color, right? You can't say, hey, this is red. This is Coca-Cola red. You can have that stance, right? The way you move can suggest that this is Coca-Cola red, but you can't actually be like, all right, see this red here? You can't use this red. Not for copyright. Trademark, probably. Copyright, no. All right, typefaces, geometric designs, familiar symbols. Like you can imagine trying to own this, right? You can't own that. You can't own this, right? You can't own this either.
So are you sure? Just
Yeah.
kidding. Because I am a certain influencer copyrighted Hi Besties. And that was
Hi,
the issue.
bestie.
Uh, Hi Besties.
Oh, by
And that
saying
was
it,
a,
was it
yeah,
copyright or trademark?
listen, I just saying, sir. And
No,
that was
but
a whole big notion, was a whole big blow up. You would have sworn that it was actually copyrighted
right.
or as you say, trademark for that. So you say no that you can copyright symbols or whatever, kind of questionable, but because of the way how people behave when they do something and do it too often or say something and say it too often.
Yeah. Like you could keep saying some stuff and people associate it with you. Um, but it's also difficult to be like, you're the originator of putting these two words together. Is that what you're saying? You're saying that putting these two words that already existed, you are the person who did that. No one has ever said hi, bestie before. I mean, you could do that if you want. You could just say it all the time.
I think where the issue might be in terms of, I just said proving it. However, I also think that solution could be easily implemented in terms of if you try to get that patented, under your brand, under your brand association, your brand slogan, or whatever the case is, and you get that patented now, and people want to use it in a way that infringes on your brand, then you might be able to sue, or at least on a cease and desist because you already patented or you paid for it or whatever, you paid for branding use.
Yeah, so that would be more in a trademark type space. But trademarking is different. That's a whole different thing. Where the way you do things, well, the systems that will be more of a pattern, but things that you say, let's say you always wear polka dots and stripes, like that could be part of the trademark, right? And that's something that you could definitely do, and you would have legal standing for that. But as copyright, not really. Trademark, yes. But then again, I'm also not a legal person. You can go ahead, do your own research. Let's keep going. Logos are not copyrightable unless they are uniquely artistic and or ornate. However, keep in mind that even though a logo is not protected by copyright, it can still be protected by trademark laws. All right. So using those, it's just to be clear on the two different things, right? I'm not going to be talking about trademarks right now. Um, well, in this particular course, but copyright, you're not really going to be protected by copyright. So you can create a logo today that you've never trademarked. 5 years down the road, you still didn't trademark it, but someone else trademarked it before you trademarked it. You now have a problem because legally you have no trademark to what you've been doing. This person has it. So you may be forced to pay for them to release the trademark to you, which would suck. But law is law. Right.
Yeah, if I could be on, if I, you want, I just want to be on this conversation just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
When I was DJing back in 2017 and 2018 and 2019, in 2017, we almost got into a legal affair because apparently we didn't know at the time that Five Star Entertainment, as our brand name, was a well-known. Well, he actually had papers for Five Star Entertainment. We didn't. We weren't going the legal route. We were just going off of the height we were getting, and we were getting gigs, and we went to branding and everything, and then we found out one day we had the page at 500 and somebody followers. This other page reached out to me, and then was the original so-called original owners of Fight Entertainment.
Right.
After we took it to the media, however, we see that there were actually 4 or 5 different Fight Entertainments in Barbados who all were DJs, including us. So
Crazy.
that yeah, that really got squashed quick. But just to go to show you that these things happen, that's actually what set me on the path of looking into trademarks and so on. I went straight to mobile building and they found out so much information there. But I would digress.
Yeah, for sure. And that even starts off by, you know what I mean, just starting a business, registering a business name. Like how many people just start? You know what I mean? We get up and say, you know what, I can start this business, I can call it. Like you just said, we're gonna be known as 5 Star Entertainment. I don't know if you went through the process of going to Kaipo and registering at that point, doing a name search. But if you didn't, then cool. Eventually you'll find out. But I believe that Kaipo could also do a better job of making people aware. It's like, okay, when you go and register or when you check and you see that there are other things within the name, they shouldn't let you do, let's say 5 Star Entertainment was
Kaipo is just too much, too much, too much. And Barbados, it's too hard to do too many simple things. Kaipo is
that
too much.
I went through their online platform. I still waiting for my business name to get sent through.
Like
Like
how I went to
I do that
register my
since
charity, there's
August.
4 years. There's 4 years in the registering the charity with them people. This met year 4, and it's hell. Kaipo is they're so ridiculous. It is too much. Like sometimes I just feel to cry or walk away or just scream.
Right, which is probably why we end up in a situation where you've got multiple businesses with the same name.
Yeah.
Crazier still if they're in the same industry, because I could
Yeah.
understand, well, not understand, but you could have 5 Star Entertainment that is an entertainment company, 5 Star Entertainment that does, like, I don't know, puppet shows, 5 Star Entertainment that maybe they're on the decoration side, right, where you're not going to have the same clients,
Hmm.
but
Audience first, yeah.
yeah, the same audience, but
Yeah.
you got the same name. So when they pick up the phone and I was like, yeah, I'm trying to reach the owner of 5 Star Entertainment and you can't find the person, it's now a wild goose chase. Like who even has this and how are they for?
It
Right?
was it was crazy.
Yeah. So then it turns out to be who has the most paperwork wins.
Hmm.
And guess what? They get to keep all the brand equity. All.
Oh, but
And
yeah,
that would just be a sad day. All
very.
right. All right, cool. Copyright infringement. Let's look at this right here. So the Barack Obama Hope poster, right? Back in 2008, this poster was made by Shepard Fairey during the presidential election. This is a perfect example of how complicated things can get surrounding a valuable copyright. So photographs are protected by copyright and cannot be freely copied. Translating a copyright image into a different medium may still be considered copyright infringement. So we got this photo that Shepard Fairey did not take. Did not take this picture of Barack Obama. However, they took the photo, digitized it into something else. But that ended up being a whole thing. A whole thing. Now, Mr. Obama may have saw this, and obviously all this stuff, marketing materials was based around this. Didn't even know any of this situation. But you can see how controversy could have happened, well, would have happened from that. So is using software to manipulate another person's image copyright infringement? Yes. If you manipulate a digital copied image with software, you have committed copyright infringement. How fun is that? Right? But there's still loopholes, right? So we're gonna keep going. So this photo and this illustration look exactly the same, right? There's nothing, the facial expression, everything looks the same. So it looks like it's the same image. You can tell where it came from. Check this out. Question now is, what if the image isn't exactly the same. Right? What if it isn't? So this is what we call substantially similar. These works are not allowed under US copyright law. If someone can clearly see that one image is based on the other, then it is probably copyright infringement. Does copyright apply to free clip art, stock images available on the web? Yes. Many of these images are copyrighted and illegal to use despite what the website they're hosted on may claim. So better safe than sorry, stay away from that stuff. Okay? So we got this original picture of Tupac, which you may never have seen in your life. But then you got all of these t-shirts that you just buy. And you see this one t-shirt. Maybe this was on a t-shirt. And you're like, wow, all right, it's artsy, it's Pac at the same time. I dig it. I'm gonna get this shirt. Little did you know that this was based on a photo that you've never seen. You're walking around in copyright infringing apparel. Right? It's wild. It's wild out there.
Just to clarify, you can't get in trouble for paying for the shirt, but you can get in trouble if people know that you're who created it. Or you're who, well, not selling the shirt or buying shirt, but for creating it.
Um, yeah, I don't think you would get in trouble for having it, but you might also get it taken away. Maybe. Because I'm thinking like, let's say I had art, right? This is supposed to be a Monet painting, but I took the Monet painting, I put a filter on it, I made it look like it's on an Instagram. So the painting itself looks like the Instagram interface, right? Got the like icon and everything, but it has a filter on it. So is it still the Monet original painting, or because of what I did with it, is this now something different? I'm not looking to sell it. I just have it in my house. Is that no copyright infringement by me having it? Right? It's copyright infringement when it's for personal use. All right. Or does personal use now fall under fair use? But fair use is usually when it's in the public benefit. If it's just for you, probably not. You committed copyright because this image and the image that you have are substantially similar. And because they're substantially similar, you fall under copyright infringement, and whatever it means when you're found to be under copyright infringement as a creator is all on you. If you bought it not knowing, then it's not on you because you didn't know. You didn't know this is not an original piece. Like this could have been someone's digital art. Now, let me see. Yeah, if for instance, this image of Tupac was based on this, but instead, let's say they made his eyes really, really big. They made his lips smaller, right? They did something different with the bandana. By making those changes, this image is now going to be original. It's based on this photo, but it is not the same thing. That would not be copyright infringement. Following?
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. It just reminds me of the situation where I had, I think it's 2 years ago, when like he represented this game to Barbados and they went in one or two stores in town. Well, like they went in every store in town, but they find one or two stores that had a lot of imitation branding. and that
Yeah.
wasn't real, and they stripped them of every single one. And that was big news. That was
Yep.
big news.
Because somewhere around that time, I think something with Rihanna as well, or
Yeah, because it was
someone
more, yeah,
related
it
to
was,
her.
yeah. I think one of her cousins did it.
Yeah.
I
So
think he was also known to have sold some of her branding, well, imitations to her branding in the past as well too.
You mean her uncle? This
yeah, yeah,
this is too
uncle.
my issue.
Yeah, uncle. Yeah, yeah, it was.
Hmm.
Right. So in that case, you know what I mean?
But
They
she didn't
were,
have any control over that.
yeah. And it's not like there would be, they didn't create the stuff. He would have bought the stuff from wherever. But just because they were caught with these things, which are copyright infringed, they just had to be all removed. So that is a loss to you who would have paid for the things to sell them, thinking that you got a deal when you just got a bunch of knockoffs. So Canal Street, where you're gonna have luxury bags, which are dupes, then hey, that's copyright too. Right? It's not the real thing. It's something that looks really close. So let's keep this moving. All right, so we mentioned this before. Copyright attaches as soon as the original work is created. So, what does copyright not protect? Copyright does not protect facts, ideas, systems, or methods. All right, so if you have a fact, then it's just a fact. Like, you can't own a fact. Ideas, everyone has ideas. You can't own that either. Copyright, specifically copyright. Systems, people can use the same system. Multiple people can use the same system and benefit from a way of doing things, but you can't copyright that. You can trademark it, but you can't copyright it. And methods. So recipes. When I go online and I look for a recipe for Asian black cake, rum cake, when I look for that, this recipe exists. It's out there. I didn't come up with it, but I'm going to use it. Can't quite copyright that. Okay. Um, there are things like what we what we've tried to do with rum, saying that if it didn't come from the Caribbean, it is not rum. Or if it didn't come from Barbados, it's not rum. Similar to if you didn't get your champagne from Champagne in France, is it France? I'm going to say Europe just because I'm not too sure. If you didn't get your champagne from the region of Champagne, it is not champagne. You got to go there, right? That is something that exists out there. Like it has to be from this place, and that's the identification that I think we've been fighting for rum, which could be really really cool. Where it only comes into play. Rum is only rum if it's bought in Barbados. If it's not, it's another thing.
It did
Rum-esque.
it didn't work because Jamaicans are known for having their Appleton estate rum and so on. However, I do believe that based off of the way that it was originated in terms of the plantations, the plantations were owned by the colonizers and they had them in certain areas of the Caribbean and using the same methodology to create the same produce. Yeah, I don't think we would necessarily be able to get away with that. Yes, we know that we invented rum, but who's to say that, we didn't just lay claim to it. I think that's the reason why you can't necessarily put a definite on it, you know?
Yeah. So it's all interesting things, right? When you start just to dig deeper on things, trying to secure history so that it gives for a better story. Like imagine trying to sell that reggae is not Jamaican. That's going to be a hard battle. But if you're able to do that, can you do that same thing for other things? Like how important is Jackie Opal? How important is Spooch? And if it is important, why is it not given the respect that it should? Anywho, moving on. So copyright does not protect facts, ideas, systems, or methods of operation. All right, 3 tips. 3 tips to avoid copyright infringement. Here's tip number 1. Understand the law. As fun as that sounds. All right, so that's pretty much checking with Kaipo for Barbados, just based on where we're at. The place that deals with intellectual property is corporate affairs and intellectual property is Kaipo. All right, so that will be our starting point. Doing a Google search based on Barbados may not be the best way to go. So a best option would be going to Kaipo with your question, most likely in person, because just most likely in person. All right, way number 2, stay away from third-party images. Remember I showed you that website stuff on there. Maybe it is purely created. Maybe it's based on other things. Right now, we're in this AI development race where, we had that conversation. We had the conversation was happening where creators were very concerned with where are these artificial intelligence models basing their images from? Are they just scraping it from off the random internet and they have a collab pot of faces, eyes, skin tones, and whatever? So when you type in what you type in, they kind of just mix that all together and then they spit out something based on all of its knowledge? Or is it creating something new? All right. Now, when you're on the path of working for someone else, you're creating with someone else in mind, you have to protect your client by doing your due diligence. What is up with me and my pronunciation? All right, you got to do your due diligence. And you can add a fee for it just to make sure, like, all right, this typeface that I'm using, is this the free one that I downloaded off the free website? Or did I actually go and pay a license for this typography? All right, so when you're working with your client, how much ownership do you actually have? Because you don't want to be 5-10 years down the road, your client is doing amazingly well, and then this random person from Slovenia pops up, and you're like, all right, so you see this logo for your band? I did that. All right, I did that. I need to see your records that say that you purchased the license to use this typeface. You're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know what a typeface is. Say, well, can't use this. You can't use this logo. And now you got 10 years of brand equity, all the merch that you've done, and you can't use it because you're a graphic designer. Just pull a free font and never checks to see what's going on. All right. That is a risk. Now, I know no one here is going to be managing an airline, but just work with me here. Imagine that same scenario. You developed or you were working with a project, you got a graphic designer on board to do all the branding, marketing for Virgin Atlantic when they first started. This is now today. The same person pops up from the middle of nowhere, asks that same question about the typeface that is used for, let's say, the Virgin Atlantic logo. Can you even imagine how expensive it's going to be if Virgin had to stop using their logo as it is right now worldwide? Can you imagine that? That means,
Honestly, I can imagine it. What I would suggest would be to find a font that is usable and looks similar as close as possible, and just make a switch, because that would be very, very hard and very, very bad for the business as well too, in terms of publicity and so much more.
yeah. But even if you find something that's similar, you still gotta strip what is currently there. So all the planes, all the uniforms, all the name tags, all the branding at the airport, all the tickets, website, all the little signage when you land at the airport and you were a Virgin customer and you see that little thing that they hold in, all of those gotta get thrown away. All. Then they need to be reprinted worldwide. Right?
Yeah, I
So
understand the dilemma.
so the cost would have been a license, which is like 75 US dollars. Imagine 75 US dollars that your graphic designer did not pay. Stop Virgin Atlantic from flying because they had to ground everything worldwide. All their billboards across the world, they got pulled down. All. So, short story, stay away from third-party images and you want to get those licenses. All right. This may not be you personally doing this, but ask the question. It's all well and good when everything is for promotion, but when it's business, when you are moving forward, one with integrity, with professionalism, then those are questions that you got to ask. Right? Like, shoot, if I had to, I would have to delete every single font on my computer today and start over. Right? Because even me today, I am not sure. I know some of the more recent fonts, I know for sure those I got the license for. But the others coming up from college, when I was just like, all right, website, download, download, download. I don't know which one is free because those sites give us the logos. They're free for use, free for personal use is what the website says. It's free for personal use, and then they have the license. And I in college, what are you doing trying to pay for a font? So that is well. That's like that's even a point for me. Right. And as you as a manager, with that knowledge in mind and the example of Virgin, you can now speak from a different perspective. Like this, doing it correctly means we have to get these licenses. And the licenses have a price attached. So when your price is higher than everyone else's price, it's because you're making sure that your client doesn't have to experience a Virgin problem. All right. So it may not be as big as Virgin, but a band themselves, a band with all their merchandise and all the artwork that they have going on, changing that now could be detrimental, especially if the typeface was very unique. All right. Cool. Way number 2. Way number 3, be creative. Focus on creating original work while staying conscious of the fine line between inspiration and copying. Something that I've done for a number of years is if I create a logo, it is never able to be just typed. You can't just pick the font that I was using and type out the logo. I'm going to change some stuff. I'm going to use, let's say this was the logo, was Be Creative. BE might be one font. CR might be another one. EA might be the original font, but I changed the curve on the E, something. You can't just type it. All right, so be creative. In your music, you could be inspired by something, but copying is something completely different. You can turn a hip hop track into R&B. If it's the same lyrics, where does that live? Right? The delivery of it makes it feel like something completely different, but the lyrics are the same. So that fits more like into a cover type situation. Is it different enough that the original doesn't get damaged? Like, does this now, when you listen to it, are you thinking about the original? Or now if you put this and the original side by side, it's like, okay, these are two completely different things. The lyrics are the same, but they feel completely different. Right? That's what creativity allows us to do. I can't think of a good example right now. But if you watch enough shows like The Voice or America's Got Talent, sometimes you come across people that do a cover and they do the cover in a way that people have never heard before. Right? That's some creativity where it feels like this is their song now, which doesn't compete with the original song. And you're left wondering, like, why does this feel so familiar? Right? But be creative. And let's see if we can get through this. All right, we're gonna get through this, guys. Shantia, how we doing? You still with me?
Yes, sir.
All right, no problem. Oh man, this image was the best thing ever when I found it. It was like, this is so much fun. Poor baby. So, what to do if someone steals my work? For thing number one, document the case. All right, take screenshots, photos of your stolen work, collect the documentation that proves that you created it originally. It's helpful to have a record of drafts, sketches, anything like that, right? Those things are going to be helpful. Number two, contact the person, right? Write an email. And this is also going to fill into your documentation folder, right? So I sent you an email. I sent you a DM. Ask the person to take it down, right? You have your proof. If this does not work, send that cease and desist letter. Again, you're going to document everything. And then number three, consider legal action. All right. So someone steals your work, you got 3 steps. Document the case, contact the person. If they're not taking you seriously, you send that cease and desist, and then you move forward with legal action. I know it's a lot, but within the space that you guys are going into, copyright is definitely one of those things that you want to have some sort of understanding with. And it's not something that one class is going to teach you. All right. It's going to take some experience. It's going to take some research, some deep dives, a couple podcasts, maybe. Right. Definitely some failing. All that's going to help solidify this information.
Well, what I'll say, sir, is I appreciate the information you're relaying to us. And the gist of what I'm getting is essentially to be creative
Yeah,
and not to duplicate, not to take up something that somebody already has. You could be inspired, but do not replicate, or try to innovate. And once you try to be on the side of innovation, you should be safe.
for sure. For sure. All right. And where that fair use comes into play is Let's say you're thinking about events. You're 100% going to be inspired by events that you've been to. Like, how many different ways can you do a breakfast party? I'm sure there are a few. But you're going to start with, this is the experience I've had at breakfast parties. In Barbados, breakfast parties tend to happen in a garden setting more often than not. So garden. So if you wanted to do something different, first thing you could do is not be in a garden. Just as a first step. Automatically out the gate, you have a completely different experience. But then you could dive in a little deeper to see what else can happen, yeah? For that creativity, that innovation, that's going to serve you very well. Which leads us into this. Is this the last thing? Yes. This is the last lap that we are on for this particular situation before we take another break. All right, where's my slide? All right, so like Jamal said, you definitely need to know where to draw the line between what's been inspiring you and just plain straight up copying. All right, derivatives are close to a copy, but it's a little blurry and a gray area that people get to play in sometimes. So parodies are fun. They're often allow the creators to pay homage to things that they like while creating something new at the same time. So if you think of shows like, not shows, Saturday Night Live, is that still on? I think that's still on. Saturday Night Live, when they do all their sketches, it could be based on something that's happening right now, but they approach it in this funny, silly way, right? These two right here, example of parodies. Well, this is an example of a parody. This at the bottom is Star Wars. This at the top is Spaceballs. All right. Star Wars, Spaceballs. Chewie, Chewie-esque. CP3O. Right? CP3O. CP3O-esque. Princess Leia, esque. Han Solo. All right. So Spaceballs, they did enough with their characters that you get a hint at the original, but the story is ridiculous. It's not quite the same. Yes, Spaceballs. Have you seen it? If you haven't seen it, try searching on YouTube. Maybe. Hopefully that doesn't send you in a terrible, terrible dark place. But it was similar to how we had Scary Movie. Spaceballs was just the Star Wars version of Scary Movie. All right, so this leads us back to fair use again, where these are the areas that you're able to play in the gray. So if it is based on a scholarly work, you can take copyrighted information. You can reference copyrighted information for something that's school-based. Am I frozen? Hopefully I'm not frozen, but you guys let me know. So you
You're
can
lagging.
Say again?
Well, you're lagging, you're not frozen, but there's like a delay, a lag,
Okay.
and then the screen's getting blurry. So we presume that the Wi-Fi connection may have been giving you trouble.
Yeah, I just got. So the audio is okay, but the video is lagging.
At the moment, yes.
All right, let me try something. Okay, so with scholarly works, you can reference copyrighted material and or other published work, but you cannot claim copyrighted work as your own. So this is where, maybe we started to see plagiarism showing up. If you did a bunch of research, just cite your references. If you don't put references, you're pretty much saying that all of this content is my idea, right? Just do the references. Yes, it's extra work to go figure out, all right, what book did they use? What page from that book did they use? Who wrote the book? Sure. But it's also going to protect you from presenting something that isn't necessarily true. Next gray area is news reporting. If you're reporting the news and a copyrighted piece of work is relevant to your story, you can mention it without worrying about copyright infringement. This includes quotes from other news articles, all right, that are germane to your story. Okay. I don't know why I wrote that. But yeah. News reporting is another area where you can touch on copyrighted work without necessarily getting into trouble. Once again, you reference it, right? You're able to reference it. Criticism, just like scholarly critique or a piece of news, you can mention copyrighted works in your published criticism, right? So those people that do reviews, whether it's a book review, film review, all of that, you can mention stuff like this. So you watch a film and you say, you know what, this film is giving me vibes of this other film. And then you're able to connect the dots and say why these two are similar or why the plot seems to be the same, right? That's how you can use criticism freely. In teaching, right, sometimes you gotta work with existing pieces of content, and that might be the most effective way to learn, using things that people already know, that exist in pop culture, just to connect the dots. So whether this is using movie posters, writing a new chapter in an existing book as part of the lesson can be interesting. So let's say we are reading Romeo and Juliet, right? And based on the themes that we're talking about in English literature, we decide we're going to change the ending. Either Romeo or Juliet does not actually die. If you change the ending, are you infringing on the copyright of the original author? In the context of teaching, you are not. All right? The context of teaching, you are not. You're creating a derivative to teach concepts that may have came up throughout the book itself. So in order to effectively teach literature, you need an example to change, and you just happen to choose Romeo and Juliet, right? But you will not say that the story of Romeo and Juliet is your original creation. The students would own this new chapter, this alternate ending, right? But they don't own the characters. The characters aren't their design. Still the characters from Romeo and Juliet, just that this is an alternate universe that you're playing in now. All right, which is a way, if we are thinking of where we are right now in the world, where we are right now in this whole content creation and creator economy, you can decide as a film student, all that you're doing is changing the ending of films that people love, or changing the endings of films that people hate. And you just create a whole bunch of content around that. You might not even need to film anything, right? You show a clip of the ending coming up close to the end. You might even be able to use AI to help you do that. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. Unfortunately, I'm not a film student, so I'm not going to do that. All right. Parodies. So parody now, like you can see on the screen, it's holding up a piece of criticism through parody, right? Exaggerated imitation of the work for comedic or critical purposes. Like right here. All right, my connection is really, really bad. So on the screen, you can see Mary Poppins. Hopefully the recording gives a better result than what the live stream is doing. But yes, it says, I'm Mary Poppins. You know, the visual for Mary Poppins is floating with her umbrella. Her name is Mary. She's a woman. She's floating. She does have the umbrella. She does have a handbag. But this feels like Mary Poppins, even though the situation is completely different.
Sorry, you're lagging again.
Okay. And it's lagging the audio too, right? Like the
Not really.
audio.
Not
Okay.
really. But
All right.
my concern about this particular piece of content is that you just said it has the same feel. No, I never, all right, I don't say the word never. I don't believe I ever came across the original Mary Poppins. Sorry, is Mary right? Mary Poppins are not Mary Poppins as well.
Yeah, it's Mary with an M.
Right. So good. I think I heard of it before, but I never actually, sorry, can't remember actually coming across it.
Right.
So my thing is, with that said, when I see this, it might have a feel. This might actually be my first impression I'm getting of Mary slash Mary Poppins, and this is the parody. So this wouldn't be categorized as copyright infringement.
No, because it's a parody. It's meant to poke fun at this other thing. So it's
Mm,
when you have, and parody allows a lot of leeway. Like if you've watched Scary Movie, that references many different horror films,
yes,
but
many, many, many.
they lean into the things that make horror movies, like people running through a forest and tripping over a twig.
Mm-hmm.
In multiple horror films, that happens.
Yep.
So in Scary Movie, say, all right, we know that this happens. How can we make this even more hilarious? Maybe the person is tripping for like a minute, like they're just constantly falling. Never really hit the ground, but it's just falling, 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 falling.
Whoa.
Horror films, you have people that they're in a building, a creature or whoever is in the building with them, they run downstairs, pass the front door, and go somewhere else in the house. They don't run out the house. They just run downstairs and go to somewhere else in the house. It's like, wait, why are you doing that? Parody, they might go down the stairs and just leave. All
Oh,
right.
I actually thought it was the actual act of exaggeration that helps to make it party.
Yeah, it's taking what is usually there and just messing with it. All right. So a
Okay.
parody could be in Matrix, the scene when Neo is dodging the bullets. You could do a parody where his pants rip, right? And he
Uh,
actually gets shot. Like it doesn't
oh,
have
so
to
it,
be.
it makes it different in the extreme.
Yeah.
All right, I get it now. Thank you.
All right. So parodies are allowed to do that. So there's this artist. Let me know if you guys have heard of Weird Al Yankovic. You guys ever heard of him?
It sounds familiar.
Oh,
That doesn't ring any bells for me.
All right. So I'll play a song from him later in the class. Right. But he all he does is make parody songs of existing songs. So you know the song Riding Dirty? They see me rolling.
They
Hey,
hate
hey.
it.
Right. So what he
Sorry,
did,
you mean that white man? You white work?
yeah, he's a white dude.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I
so
know.
he did a song called White and Nerdy, right? But it uses the same beat, same kind of song structure as Writing Dirty. He did a whole music video and everything. All right. He has that video has over 180 million views.
But it
His
actually
song.
sounds bad though.
No, it doesn't. Right. It sounds like a legit song. He did R. Kelly's Trapped in the Closet. He did a version of that, which is Trapped in the Drive-Thru.
I think it sounds familiar, no? This really sounding familiar now.
He took Tupac's Gangster Paradise and wrote Amish Paradise.
That sounds so cool.
Right? So he has videos for all of these.
Well, my question is the music allowed to be parodied and he makes money from it? Because you know, even the artists sometimes don't have the masters, the label does.
Right.
So if the label's on the masters, that could be a conflict.
I think he can make money from it.
Wow.
I think he can. Because the song, like I don't know his process, right? So maybe he gets permission to use the track, the beat. Like he pays for the beat, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And he's making a parody on the beat that he paid for. All the lyrics are his. It's a completely different song now. Right? So he's never going to be promoting. He's not a cover artist.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to see him up there performing Gangsta Paradise. He's never performing Tupac songs. He's performing his own songs, just that the track is Gangsta's Paradise.
Okay.
Which is
So a little bit touchy, but I get it.
Yeah. So it's an interesting place to live. You will always think when the song starts, you might think that it's Gangsta's Paradise that's going to play. But when he starts performing, you realize like this is not that. So at that point, it's now something completely different. It's like as a DJ, you can use right now, like we love our Afro beats, our Amapiano, and you can put dancehall on top of that. But when the track starts, you're expecting something else. But you created a different mix. Now, I don't know where that lands, right? Can you as a DJ make money on mixes in that way? I think kind of you should, because you are using your creativity to create something that wasn't there before. But I'm sure
I think you do, though. I think you do.
thing.
And the reason I say this is because as a DJ, not to call it for anybody, but I never had anybody come and say, well, listen, you gotta stop playing this song because you want something to cause gap, or or this thing you want pay for rights to use our song, or whatever the case is. And we play songs from all over, from Jay-Z, blues, depending on the person requests, you play country. So I think there's some level of leeway we are given as DJs, to mix music. We blend songs that don't have anything to do with each other together, all kind of thing we just do when we mixing, right? So that's just how I see it.
Yeah. All right. Now this one is a little interesting. So this is now speaking to transformation. All right. So the transformative nature of a work isn't the only factor that separates fair use from copyright infringement. Every instance of alleged infringement is unique. So when a court is presented with a specific instance, it considers all of the following to determine whether copyright infringement actually occurred. So we got this picture here, which is the original photo. And then we have this photo that changes some stuff. Not a lot of stuff, but it changes some things. So close to the bottom of the screen, in 2013, a court ruled that a photograph on the right by photographer Richard Prince is transformative enough of the original on the left to be fair use of the image. Yes, to be fair use of the image. Can you see the picture, or is it blurry right now? Check, check, check.
We can see it. We can see it.
Okay.
So we can
Yeah.
see it.
So apparently, putting 1, 2, 3 dots on his face and putting a guitar was enough transformation for a court to say that, yeah, under fair use, these are two different photos. And that is wild. Oh, you can't see it? All right, hold on. I'll just drop that in the chat because we are talking about it. Yeah, it's very yeah. So this is some stuff that you can consider and be aware of, because you never know what people are going to do online. So you can have a client who is in whatever field, they're doing amazing, and you had some promo photos done which look really good, they're normal, and then some random graphic designer from somewhere else did this to it, and it's selling this on t-shirts and all sorts of stuff. When this happens and you see it, to you, this photo is the original photo. You are making money off the likeness of my client. You take this person to court, and their lawyer is able to say, like, hey, back in 2013, something similar happened, and the courts ruled it as fair use because we transformed it enough. Things to be aware of. All right. It's going to be annoying, but something to be aware of.
So you're saying there's no protection against that happening? There's no way to not necessarily prevent it, because we can't prevent it, but there's no way to get justice for your client in that regard?
Well, in this case, according to the law, this is not your client.
Okay, I now see the argument.
Right? There's enough has changed about it. Like, this face is not this face. Right? So this doesn't look like your client at all. Furthermore, this person has a guitar. Your client is not holding a guitar.
I see. So what I would have to probably do then, because I'm a problem solver, I would not say they're using my client's likeness. I would tackle it and say they're using my imagery and my intellectual property. I captured that image of that location, and you can clearly see there's a clear representation of that. So I would debate that very strongly so that I can
Yes.
represent my client.
Unfortunately, there is precedent for this happening where this has been changed enough that it is not the original photo.
Well, it might not necessarily be the original photo. It may not necessarily be my client, but is of high enough resemblance that one could say, because a lot could happen. They could probably change the colors and all that too to make it look different. and then you would not really be able to to debate it as much then. But at
Yeah,
this
so
point, you can clearly see.
yeah, for sure. Sure. The average person can say, like, all right, this is the same photo. But according
Mm,
to the law and fair
hmm
use, which more often than not swings in favor of the public interest, this has been changed enough that it is not the original photo. This is now something
mm.
else.
Well, that's a double-edged sword. On one side, it can swing and people can like it. On the next side, a lot of people ain't gonna like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So imagine this is on a shirt and this person selling these shirts for $50 and is selling. You have not used your photo on a shirt and you're making no money from it. But you paid whoever this photographer is, let's say a slight thousand, like 2,000 or something to shoot this, right? $2,000 you shot this. I got it for free. I do some ridiculous editing, which ain't really nothing fancy. And I selling this for $50 a piece. Infinity. And the judge says fair use. So yeah,
Wow.
things to
This is
know.
one of the things that God deal with. Wow.
Yeah, things to know, right? So maybe you just like, because since there's no way to protect yourself from it, you might as well personally capitalize on it. And if you have an original photo, feel free to have someone mess with it and make something that is derivative. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe that's some more research, right?
Yeah, that's
This
still a
might,
good strategy to piggyback off the sales. That was a good strategy.
yeah, so we'll see. All right. All right, next week definitely needs to be something interactive because this so many words. All right, so the nature copyright work. All right, so copyright work, this includes movies, novels, other pieces that require substantial creative work on the part of the creator. In contrast, a technical paper or a news article requires less creative work to produce, and thus it is more likely to be deemed fair use. So, you wrote a book. Oh no, not book. All right, so some types of work benefit from copyright protections more than others. These are the works that typically receive greater copyright protection. So, movies definitely have more protection. But if you wrote a news article, right, which is just apparently is just words, right? You didn't need to think about lighting, costuming, location, photography, storytelling, all that stuff. You just got words. Apparently, because it's less of that creative input in, persons can take your article, cite your article, use your article to twist to work with their narrative, and it's very little you can do if it's deemed as fair use. All right. So in our space, we probably won't be talking about that too much, but I guess if you are an event producer, a technical paper like how to set up for a 2-day event, right? If you wrote that paper, so you're talking about the technical side, the spacing, why the bathroom needs to be X amount of distance away from the stage, and all of that. You you would know that people can take your work and speak to it for their own purposes, right? To tie the two closer together. Maybe that's why people tend to do more documentaries now, because the same information that could have been in just a news article or just a technical paper, if it's now a documentary, you're still given the same information, but you're adding more creativity on top of it, right? That way, you're able to fight this fair use situation by moving it further along and deeper into the arms of copyright protection. I mean, 1 second.
Sir?
He's like, give you 1 second, Kiwani.
Alrighty.
Oh, I didn't hear that part. I thought you just cut out.
All right, so my connection clearly is not great today. All right, so we are going to finish a little earlier. I got 2 slides. Right. So spoke about these movies. All right. So the amount of what is this? All right. The nature of copyright, the amount of copyrighted work used. So basically, a small piece of the original work used to support derivative creators' point. So with derivatives, we're just taking part of this a bigger story and creating something new from it. So let me read what I have over here. The amount of copyrighted work used in derivative work, or if there were large portions copied and positioned around a relatively insignificant point. Quality and quantity both matter here. So in some cases, even when a small piece of the original work can be deemed too much for the derivative to be fair use, since the small piece is the core of the original work. All right, cool. So that was a lot there, but let me see if I can make that make sense. If you're going to make a derivative of an original work, you're going to have to pick something insignificant, right? Something that is not the star. Like you can't, if you making a derivative around the hero of a film wouldn't really work because the hero is the central part of this story, right? That's why you would get a spin-off that uses not the lead person, but somebody that's off to the side. There's not much known about them, but they may have had an interesting interaction with the lead, so that now if you make a derivative based on that person, there's a whole world that feels like it's unexplored. It doesn't damage or impact the real story because this person only had 5 minutes out of 2 hours of movie. You're taking this 5-minute person. Is that making sense? That would fall under fair use. Let me know if that's clear or if you actually heard me or if my situation here didn't help.
Well, it's not a matter of hearing you, sir. I guess, I don't know. I know you were saying in particular that if you're using the main thing, that it would not necessarily work because the main character will be too much of the initial thing to use, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Like you can't make a
Right.
side story about Batman. Like at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's Batman.
But you could do a spin-off of Gotham in general, though.
Yeah.
All
Some
right.
random child that he saved whenever in Gotham, you could do that. You could do a story about Alfred. You could do a story about whoever fixes the Batmobile, like Batman's mechanic. I don't know,
That's actually an interesting concept.
right?
Yeah,
Let's
so you with it. Yeah.
maybe the real estate agent that sold the house to the family. Like, did the real estate agent know that there was a cave there? Did he know that there are a lot of weird stories that you could develop, but once they are so far removed from the core of the original, by fair use, you could go ahead and do that.
I get it now. I get it.
All right, cool. So these are all examples where fair use comes in. So you may not even have to have an original idea if you have a good understanding of fair use. And depending who you are, you can make a living just like Weird Al on capitalizing on what's popping right now. It's like, oh, okay, so this particular song is the song that everybody talking about. Bet I'm gonna write something ridiculous using this song, and yeah, it's a parody. It's gonna make fun of it. Everyone's gonna love it. They're gonna want to hear it. I am going to get paid for streams. Cool. All right. Last slide. So the derivatives effect on the marketing. So fair use of a work should not hurt the original creator's ability to profit from their work. So if the court determines that an unlicensed derivative work can negatively impact the original's market, it may be deemed that the derivative to be copyright infringement. All right, so let's say, I'm trying to see if I can find a good example of this. All right, I don't know if this would actually count as fair use, but we know how Subway works, right? Subway is you come in, you pick your bread, and then you make a sandwich. So the system of Subway is kind of like almost like a buffet. Point to what you want, we can put it together. Let's say next to Subway in Highgate Hall, there was a restaurant open, and it's called Health Way, right? So we got Subway and we got Health Way or something else. So let's go with that. Their whole model is you're going to come and you're going to make a salad. You're not going to make a sandwich. You're making a salad, but it's the same process as Subway. You come in, what kind of bowl do you want? Maybe they deal with you know those edible bowls, like a taco bowl. So instead of picking a sandwich, you pick a bowl. But after you pick the bowl, everything else is the same as Subway. What you want to put in here? You want lettuce, tomato, whatever. So I don't know. I don't know if that works. But if you create this thing and it starts to hurt the profit of the original, maybe that doesn't work because it's a different model. But anyway, the main point is this. If you create a derivative and it's seen to impact the sales or the marketing of the original, then it would be copyright infringement. Oh, I got it. So Weird Al Yankovic, he makes these songs, right? These parody songs. But I don't think he creates the song while that song is popping. See what I mean? So while Gangsta's Paradise is out, Amish Paradise was not around. So Gangsta Paradise lived its entire life in the spotlight. And then when it faded away, he then brings it back by doing Amish Paradise. So that would be the framework that he uses. I will pay attention to songs that are popular for a period of time. I will let them have their moment, note the fact that they were popular, and then when that wave starts to go down, when they've made as much money as they can, I will then revive it by doing something silly. I think that would be a much better example of fair use. Because if Amish Paradise and Gangsta's Paradise were out at the same time, Tupac's team could argue your song is catchy, just as catchy as mine, and you're impacting my sales by doing something based on my original work. You need to cut that out.
Okay, starting to see now.
All right, Savannah, Shantia, Carrie, Katrina. All right, was that clear for you? It's pretty much the last point, but just want to make sure that you got it.
Was okay for me. I'll rewatch, and any questions, as I said, I'll note them.
All right, no problem. No problem at all. Yeah, so that would definitely be the main difference. Where that derivative would not impact the sales at all. But if it did, it would stop being fair use and become a problem. Okay, so